Shoulder pain? Nice. Good. Okay, good. So now we're ready. Scoliosis and weightlifting. Yeah, yeah. So just to get started, my name is Yogi Aaron. For those of you who don't know me, I'm one of the owners of Blue Osa. I'm also the yoga director of Blue Osa Yoga Retreat and Spa in Costa Rica. And I think most of you know a little bit about Blue Osa. I also lead these life transforming and spiritually awakening yoga teacher trainings here, which is one of my greatest passions. There's nothing more rewarding than seeing people come in for a 14-day or 28-day immersion and leave just completely with their mind blown, for lack of better words. But what's also become very rewarding in the last year and a half since I've been teaching what we call AYAMA, or Applied Yoga Anatomy and Muscle Activation, is that usually, well, not usually, always, by day, somewhere between day 6 and day 9, everybody is pain-free in their bodies. And it started to make me wonder, like, maybe we're really on to something. I've had people come in. Kelly, you mentioned earlier that you have really bad knee issues. And I've had people come in with all kinds of really chronic problems, and we've managed to pretty much solve them. Now, what they did after they left here, some of them keep up with it and some of them don't. But while they're here, I managed to get them to a place in their body where they're waking up in the morning and feeling really good. And so why is that? Well, I want to just share a document with you guys. Why is stretching hurting you? That's the topic for today. And why is it hurting you? So I already explained what AYAMA is. AYAMA is Applied Yoga Anatomy and Muscle Activation. Applied Yoga Anatomy and Muscle Activation is a revolutionary way to practice yoga that focuses on activating and engaging muscles rather than stretching them, and it isn't being taught anywhere else. So to my knowledge, nobody else is teaching this kind of methodology. Many teachers talk about engaging muscles, but a lot of teachers don't really apply what we're doing in terms of muscle activation in the practice. They just say to contract them. That's very different than what we're teaching here. In this yoga methodology, we reduce pain and risk of injury while increasing range of motion, muscle strength, stability, and alignment. Applied Yoga Anatomy and Muscle Activation, AYAMA, is a paradigm shift in the way that we look at the body and how we understand the body. In AYAMA, we look at pain and muscle tightness as an indication of muscle weakness and instability. In understanding how the body moves forward, backwards, extensions, laterals, and twists, we use postures and muscle activation to stabilize and intensify muscle strength and efficacy. So it doesn't matter what posture you're doing, we're always looking to create better muscle efficacy, improve muscle efficacy, and really what we're looking to do is to help muscles contract and contract on demand. So why applied yoga anatomy? The problem we see in the fitness yoga world is that too many people are hurting themselves due to a neuromuscular system that is already negatively affected by stress, trauma, and overuse. And the results are everyday athletes or aspiring fitness-minded people, which I believe that everybody here that's participating in this webinar is, we're all aspiring fitness-minded people, are constantly and consistently being injured and are dealing with pain. And so after this webinar, you can come back to this PDF and read more about the benefits of muscle activation. The leading causes of this are a lack of understanding of the body. So my goal as a yoga teacher in leading these yoga immersions, these yoga teacher trainings, or week-long retreats, or in these webinars, is to help you develop a better understanding of your body. We are told that deeper is better. This is one of the biggest leading causes and problems of muscle dysfunction. We need to stop going or adopting this belief of going deeper. Our misguided goals make us want to look like a Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, stretching. Our goal in applied yoga anatomy is to improve muscle function. Stretching and holding long stretches may diminish muscle function over time. To avoid this from happening, we need to consider current muscle function, avoid riskier postures, use muscle activation in poses to prepare and counterpose. Stop passively stretching. And this is something I'll talk a little bit about today, is to stop passively stretching. When muscles are pushed beyond their end range of motion, the neuromuscular connection is disrupted. So there's 3 examples here. Someone folding forward, grabbing their feet. This is a very passive pose, this Paschimottanasana, grabbing the feet and pulling ourselves forward. The second pose here is Hanumanasana, or splits pose, and you can see how gravity is pulling this person down to the floor, down to the ground, down to the earth. And this is another passive stretch. And then the third one, which is a pose I no longer teach anymore, is child's pose. And ironically, it's one of the worst poses that we can do in a yoga class. I just stay away from this pose. When we stretch for long periods of time, we're ultimately disrupting the connection between the brain and those muscles. When that disruption happens, muscles lose their ability to contract and contract on demand. This is the definition, by the way, of physical stability, a muscular system that can contract when needed. Additionally, when we stretch for long periods of time, the neuromuscular response becomes inhibited. But how? This is a little bit deep, but it really explains what is happening when we stretch. Even if you stretch a little bit, this is exactly what happens. So if you stretch a little bit or stretch deeply, the same thing happens. The muscle is like a slinky. You guys remember those little coiled up slinkies that you used to play with as children, maybe even as adults? Is a tight coiled structure that unwinds when lengthened. So your muscle is like the slinky. It starts to unwind as it lengthens. This is called unloading. With an unloaded spindle, the sensitivity that the spindle has to receive input in the nervous system to contract or relax is drastically diminished. And by the way, I'm going to prove it to you very shortly. Therefore, with the presence of inflammation, which contributes to muscle tightness, the spindle is less sensitive and becomes a strength deficit. From an applied yoga anatomy and muscle activation perspective, stretching is strongly discouraged for muscle sensitivity. And so there's 2 quotes that I want to kind of cite here, and I have a lot more on some of the links that I'm going to give to you guys that shows a lot of different research that has been done on this. But there's this interesting research from the Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City. They say that the muscle stays weakened for up to 30 minutes after stretching, which is not how an athlete or an aspiring athlete, a fitness-minded person, wants to begin a workout. And I think that it's really important to put into context here that when we're talking about, you know, these people that they did the study on and it stayed weak for 30 minutes after stretching, they probably did this study on 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, maybe 22-year-olds, maybe 25. But the younger we are, the more likely our muscles are to spring back very quickly. And, you know, I think a lot of people that are watching this right now are not 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds. We're much older, and we have desk jobs, and we have lives, and we have children, we have stress, and all of these things really contribute to our muscles becoming more debilitated. So this number of 30 minutes becomes longer the older that we get. I'm sorry to say that. One of my favorite quotes comes from the Australian ballet physiotherapist Sume, who says stops using the word stretching. She says our approach is to stop using the word stretching and flexibility. And actually, when I start my yoga teacher trainings now, on the day one, at the very beginning, I actually tell people we will stop using the words stretching and flexibility. It is also worthwhile to note that the word stretching and flexibility is not mentioned anywhere in any yogic scripture. So this idea of stretching and flexibility is really something that's been born out of the last, X amount of years. And to really try to think about it more as optimizing your capacity, strength, and power at those end ranges. We have found that by strengthening, you can increase your range of motion much more effectively and safely. And that's one of the hacks that I'm going to show you guys on how to increase your strength of motion, your strength so that you can safely increase your range of motion. You need strength. Mays goes on to say that when a dancer is on the stage, they never stay in passive positions. You never see a ballerina just kind of dropping into a deep stretch. They're dancing dynamically and moving in and out of these extreme ranges of movement. And if we look at what we're doing a lot of times in yoga, I find it really interesting that we ask people to come in from a desk job that they've been doing for 8 hours that day, maybe 9 or 10, 11, even 12 hours. And then all of a sudden we get them into this very dynamic movement, moving them in and out of stretches. We don't really address their need to have strong and functional muscular system. Dancers need to have an optimal range of movement. They need to be able to move their limbs through extreme ranges of movement, but it shouldn't be in a really active, controlled way that they do that. You can't get good, dynamic, explosive, powerful, extreme range without strength. And of course, you can click on that read more after the webinar. So why are muscles tight? Muscle tightness is a protective state, and I can't stress that enough. When we get tight muscles, it's really a sign that our body is trying to protect ourselves. The first sign of muscle instability is muscle tightness. So when there's instability in the body, or when the muscular system isn't functioning properly, the body starts to tighten up. When the body senses instability, it tightens up. Think about when you walk on ice or a slippery surface. When sensor receptors become desensitized, the central nervous system is not functioning properly. Inflammation has a negative impact on the slow twitch muscle fibers, and they start to take in fast twitch muscle fiber characteristics. As we said earlier, a muscle loses its ability to contract because it's lost sensory input. Muscle tightness is a sign of decreased sensory input. The body is tightening up to protect itself because of those extreme ranges of motion. Eventually, it will shut down. There is so much focus on getting people to stretch, but the reason why they are tight is that the body is in a protective state. And when we push that person to stretch their tight muscles, we are violating the body's protective mechanisms. So what is the solution? Our solution is to improve muscle function and get the muscles to function better. And guess what? The tightness and pain goes away. That's a little bit about what we're doing here and why we're doing it. What we're looking to do ultimately is to improve muscle function. And when the body senses its stability, when the body feels stable, guess what? Muscles start to relax. And what we've kind of grown accustomed to in our kind of way of thinking and the kind of way that we practice is that if the muscle is tight, we need to force it to open, but we're not really addressing the instability that's going on. And that's what I want to kind of show you a few things. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you with a model. I've actually got two models here. They're also, like in the comics, laughing on the side. And so what I'd like you to do is to show you what happens when we get a muscle stronger. Maybe you guys will see it, maybe not. It's a little bit hard to show you from that distance, but I'll do my best. And when we do the replay, I'll actually have it zoomed in a little bit so you guys can see the difference. Sometimes it's quite remarkable, sometimes not, but you always will feel more stable. Then we're going to show you what happens when you stretch, and then we'll show you what happens. We'll do the test again and see what happens after you stretch. If you'd like to, you can just watch or you can join in. I'm going to show you 2 demonstrations, and then we're going to show you the hack. Okay? So Amy, why don't you come on up here? And you have to move Suka here. We have our cat over here. Come on, Suka. She's always getting in the way. So Amy's going to come and lie down. So again, if you want to follow along, you're welcome to. If not, that's completely fine if you just want to watch. This is one of my favorite muscle activation practices. And there's a couple of things that I always stress to people to do. One of them is to strengthen your glutes. The glutes are really so important, and to get them firing and firing properly. So many of you, some of you said that you had shoulder issues, some of you said that you have hip issues, some of you said that you have knee issues, poor functioning knees from skiing. One of the #1 culprits is the glutes, and it's very fascinating to kind of look at the glutes. There's so many muscles that run into the glutes. We have the hamstrings, they obviously come up into the glutes. We have TFL, tensor fasciae latae, that comes up into the glutes. All of the lower back muscles, the multifidus, the longissimus, and the iliocostalis, comes in, they all intersect right here. So it's really important that the glutes are working. They're kind of a trigger point for a lot of other muscles to function properly. And the worst thing that we often do in a lot of yoga postures is do this thing we call open the hips. I'd actually like to see us start closing the hips. I want us to start engaging the hips, if you will. So what the glutes are connected to is the set of muscles called hip extensors. And so Amy, just for this, can you please lower your arm just so that they can see? Bend this knee. So if you're following along, you want to bend the knee of one leg, and we're just going to stay on the one leg and engage this glute. So engage the glute first, and then just lift the leg up as high as you can. Now Amy's got an inch, so let's see if we can improve that a little bit here, okay? Now, as I'm a trained muscle activation therapist in muscle activation technique, I would actually palpate this and then come back and check it. But I'm not going to do that today. So I want to show you something that you guys can use. So activate this glute and then lift up. And so what I want you to do, Amy, is just press up and hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then come back down and just relax. This is something that I do every single time I go hiking, anytime I go work out, anytime I go for walks, anytime I'm sort of using my lower part of my body, I'm always working to activate my glutes. If I'm on my feet a lot, I'll come back and activate my glutes. Let's do it again. So we hold for 6 seconds, and we're going to do it 6 times. So engage and lift up. Okay, so now she's actually already increased her range of motion, relax, by 1 inch. So that's interesting. On a degrees level, that's like probably about 4 or 5 degrees. Bend the knee, engage the glute, and then lift up. Okay, so lift up a little bit more. Can you do that? Good. 4, 5, 6, and then come back down. So I know Amy for a while, and we've agreed that she's got weak glutes. She was a mess when she came to me the first time. Oh my God. But I have managed to help her so much. I also have a healthy sense of my ego. Engage the glute and lift it up. Okay. So now we've just done that a few times. Now we've gone up 2 inches. So she started at 1 inch, relax down and relax. So one of the things to remember that when you're doing these muscle activations, come back to the yoga, come back to the breath. We're starting to heal our muscular system in a parasympathetic state, which means rest or digest, okay? Bend the knee, engage the glute, and lift it up. Nice. Lift up a little higher. Good. And come back down and relax. So I think that was number 4, right? I always lose count. Engage the glute. Engage it. Lift it up. Good. 2, 3. So are you guys getting a sense of how high she's gotten? So now she's that high. And then come back down. So we started off with like 1 inch, and now it's almost up to 5 inches. And bend the knee one last time. Let's go for broke. Engage the glute, lift up. Good. Push up, up, up. Good. So when you guys just stay there a little longer, Amy, one of the things you don't want to do is lift the pelvis up. So you really want to keep that pelvic bone down and relax. Good. Nice. So I'm going to just test the muscle here really quickly. And I should be on that side, but I just want to do it on this side so you guys can see. So lift up. Okay. Relax and hold. Good. Relax and hold. Good. So it's pretty strong. It's strong. Let's see what happens when we stretch it. So we're going to do a very popular stretch for the hips. Turn over onto your back. And we're going to do figure 4. So a lot of us are suggested or recommended by different, trainers and what have you to do figure 4 posture. So you're going to bring this knee towards your chest, bring your hands behind your knee. Now, one of the things about Amy, can you go further? One of the things about Amy that you can see right off the bat, she's got lots of range of motion. Look at the degree that she's able to stretch her glutes. Look at the degree at which she's able to, create this sort of hip extension, if you will, which is kind of interesting. But when she comes on the table and she lifts the leg up, she's got no strength. So something that she has to work at, okay? So we're holding this for about 30 seconds. That was 20. And, just for the record, I think it's important to note that it does feel good to stretch. Like when we go into stretches and we hold them and we bring a yogic quality of breathing, like it does feel good. We do feel relaxed. There is a parasympathetic response going on. But as we've discovered, there's also something going on with the nervous system as well. So turn over. So about 30 seconds. And let's see what happens. So bring that hand down and engage this glute. Bend the knee, engage the glute, and lift up. Okay. So now she's back down to barely lifting at even 1 inch. So it's kind of interesting. Lift up. Let's test it. Okay, relax. So basically, she lost all the strength that we just built. Okay, and hold. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see this. Relax. Relax, let go, and hold. She's got, I'm not even pushing. Last time I was pushing hard. This time I barely need to, pushing as light as a feather, and she has no power to hold the leg there. So we have to fix her before she runs. So bend the knee. We'll just do it one time. This is my very quick hack. So engage the glute and lift up, push up. Come on, push, push, push. 4, 5. We're going to hold it to 10. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and relax. Good. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it. And so that's what kind of happens when we stretch. I hope you guys managed to see how we lost some of that. I'm going to do this next demonstration. Why don't you come up here, Matt, again? And come and lie down, please, onto your back. So with Matt again, I wanted to kind of show you guys, this is one of my little hacks to start to strengthen the hip flexors. Now, what's kind of interesting here with the hip flexors, bring the leg up as high as you can. Now, Madigan has a lot of range of motion, okay? I mean, we can agree Madigan has, she's very flexible. When somebody is not so flexible and they can only bring the leg to here, what a lot of times what we do is we bring the hands, we grab, a strap, and we start to pull the leg closer to us. And what we're trying to do a lot of times is just stretch the hamstrings. We think, okay, I can't get my leg there because the hamstring is tight. From an AYAMA perspective, from an applied yoga anatomy and muscle activation perspective, what we're actually looking to do, what actually is bringing the leg up here, is the quads, specifically the rectus femoris, a little bit of psoas, a little bit of iliacus, probably a little bit of tensor fasciae latae, and maybe even a little bit of adductor, just a little bit. But all of these things are connected. And so our ability to bring our leg up is really proportional to how much these front muscles are contracting. If the hamstring feels tight, these muscles are not contracting properly. So if we want to get rid of the tightness, what does tightness mean? Tightness is when the body doesn't feel safe. The body doesn't feel stable. So what do we need to do to get the body feel stable? What do we need to do to let the hamstrings go, okay, I can let go now. We need to get these guys working properly. Okay? That's really important. It's a complete paradigm shift because so many of us are into, we have to stretch these muscles. What we're really looking to do is to strengthen these muscles here in the hip flexors. Okay? So bring the leg down. I'm just going to quickly check Madigan's hip flexors. So just going to lift the leg up to here, 30 degrees. Relax now. Okay, relax. And hold the leg. Okay, so she actually doesn't, her muscles are not contracting and contracting on demand. Relax and hold. So it's kind of interesting. She has a lot of range of motion, but no strength. There's flexibility without stability. And when we have flexibility without stability, we always will have injury. Always. So bring the leg up. This is my quick hack. This is one of the things I do as a yoga teacher. So I'm going to bring my hand on the front of her shin, and with the thumb I'm just holding the leg in place. But what I'm going to do is ask Matt again, press your leg into my hand here. So press it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and relax. I'm going to hold it there. I'm not going to move it. And then press it again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and relax. And do it again. Press 1, 2. So as she's pressing into my hand at her shin, she's now engaging all of the front muscles. We're engaging actually even the quads, the vastus muscles as well. And do it again. 2, 3. Now it's interesting because as she's doing this and relax, I can feel her force strength getting stronger and stronger. So that's awesome. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't grind your teeth though. 5, 6, relax. And then do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Relax the leg down. So let's see what happened. So take the leg up all the way, as far as you can. Okay, so we got a little bit of range of motion already. Madigan was doing pretty good, but this is now range of motion with stability. Before she didn't have stability, and I'll show you in a moment. One of the things in AYAMA that I teach is when we're going to do poses like this, do them actively. Do them dynamically. Don't do them passively. What is passive? When we take the hands to the leg and pull the leg closer to us, which we'll do in a moment. Bring the leg down. Let me just check it really quick. So lift the leg up, 30 degrees, relax, and hold. Yeah. Now there's like this enormous strength. I can't push, hold the leg down. She's like solid as a brick. Turn the leg out. Let's just check psoas really quick. Bring the leg out, lift up, relax, and hold. Yeah, I can't push the leg down. It's not working. But now, let's stretch it and see what happens. So bring the leg up all the way, and then grab your leg. So one of the things you can see about Madigan is she can really stretch. Before the leg was right about here, now she can actually stretch it about 30 degrees more. That's passive stretching. And what we want to avoid is any kind of passive stretching. Once we start to do passive stretching, as we read, we start to overstretch the hamstrings. The brain becomes disconnected from the muscular system, and then we lose stability. It feels good, but from a stability standpoint, the body is left unstable. And when there's instability, there's always the opportunity for injury. Bring the leg back. Let's see what happened. So lift the leg up. Now it's already heavy. Relax, relax, and hold. Good. And hold. Okay. And it's getting weaker. Turn the leg out. Bring the leg up. Good. And relax. This is psoas. And hold. Okay. And hold. She's actually using her whole body now to hold the leg up. Before, the muscles were engaging, they were working, they were operating. A lot of people come into my yoga classes and complain of lower back pain, of hip pain. And one of the causes for that, as we mentioned earlier, is definitely the glutes and also the psoas, the muscle that runs in the anterior part of the spine. It's one of the muscles that gets compromised the most in a lot of different kind of stretches that we do. So I promised you guys that we're going to do a quick hack, okay? I promised you guys we're going to do a quick hack, and I just wanted to share with you the muscles that we're going to be working here. So the muscles that we're going to be working here is a few of them. Earlier I was just talking about the psoas. It's a deep muscle here. This is the psoas right here, and you can see how it attaches to the leg and comes and wraps into the lower back here, in the lower part of the spine. We also want to start looking at another muscle, which is the one that I was testing on with Madigan, called the, not that one, the rectus femoris. This is an interesting muscle, and you can see, some of you earlier were talking about knee pain. You can see how it attaches right into the patella, okay? And it attaches right into the pelvis up here. So it goes right from the pelvis down and inserts right into the knee. It's a really important muscle for knee stability. The hack that I'm going to teach you right now is just a very simple one. It activates all of these muscles as well as the lower abdominal muscles as well. Okay? So right into the right up into the rectus abdominis in the lower, really the first and second rectus abdominis, and definitely a little bit of transverse abdominis. So it's a really great hack. And if you want to join, you are more than welcome to join here. So come and lie onto your backs. What I'd like you to do, though, is do a little test. If you're joining in, what I'd like you to do is just lift the legs up 30 degrees. And just notice how that feels. Notice if you've got any strength there, okay? Madigan's about to cry, so we're going to stop that. And then, Madigan, you're going to bring your knees to 90 degrees, bring the feet up. Bring your hands into your knees. And so what you want to do is, if this is the kneecap, bring the heel of your hand just above the kneecap. Now press the knees into the hands. Keep the arms straight. You're not pressing the hands into the knees. You're pressing the knees into the hands. Do you feel that? And then relax. Relax everything. Come into Shavasana. Corpse pose. Do it again. So we're going to do this 6 seconds, 6 times. So before, when we did the test, what I was actually getting you guys to do, if you wanted to do the test, if you're joining in, is to see how much your muscles were able to contract. Relax. What is your contractibility of the muscles? If you lift your legs off the floor and it feels hard, it's not because your muscles are weak. It's because your muscles aren't working. The brain isn't connecting to the muscles. Do it again. Good. So again, just to repeat the instruction, all you're doing is pressing the knees into the arms, and the arms are straight. That's it. Okay? And then relax. So by doing this, this is my simple, quick and easy fix, quick and easy hack to engage all of these muscles here. Do it again. So this is number 4, I think. Good. 4, 5, 6, and relax down. Good. And then do it again. And hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and relax down. And then I think we do it one more time, right? Yep. And hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's awesome. All right. And so just lift the legs up to 30 degrees. And now the legs are just floating all the way up. That's actually too high. Just out of curiosity, Madigan, I want to just test, see if it's strong or not. So lift this leg up. Okay. Relax and hold. That's strong. Lift up. Relax and hold. That's strong too. Okay. Thank you so much, Madigan. So that's the little quick summary. That's the quick and easy hack on how to engage some of those hip flexor muscles, how to engage the trunk flexors, and how to start creating more range of motion without compromising the neuromuscular system in the body. Because ultimately what you want to do is leave a practice that's feeling strong, not just feeling strong, but also with a body that feels stable, okay? I'd like to just do a quick Q&A, and in the PDF that I gave to you guys, there's just a couple of links here that I want to invite you to take advantage of. We're also going to be sending out something for you guys to take advantage of, so pay attention to your emails. But there's a 15-day challenge and Dare to be Pain-Free. In here takes you through a 15-day series on different things that we've just done with Madigan and with Amy, and then of course a lot of other practices. I'd like to invite you to read more about applied yoga anatomy and muscle activation. And then if you feel inspired at some point in your journey to come down to Blue Osa and join me on one of the 14-day immersions where we really get to dive into the stuff in great detail. Okay? So I'd just like to open it up. I'm going to unplug myself from the computer so I'll be able to hear you. I'd like to open it up. If you have any questions at all about yoga teacher trainings, or if you have any questions about what we just talked about, please feel free to ask. Or you can also put it in the chat too. I'll answer questions in the chat.
Okay, my dear. If I'm doing traditional yoga, which you know what I do, how do I get my teachers on board with this?
I'm not about changing other yoga teachers' mindsets. What I'm more about is trying to educate people into better muscle function. How do muscles function? Muscles are designed to do two things. One, they contract. So if I bring my arm up, there's muscles that are contracting, the supraspinatus, the deltoid, the upper trapezius muscle. There's a muscle right here, it's just gone. But all of these muscles are contracting. Now, sometimes, especially with a lot of yoga students that I've had in my teacher trainings, and I've taught probably 1,000 over the last few years, that when I've had so many students come in and they lift their arm up and they have pain, they can't lift their arm more than here, or they feel tightness, there's a constriction. And so what a lot of the industry's mindset is that we need to stretch that. And so we hear this term a lot in the yoga world and even in the fitness world to a large degree, like you just got to stretch it out. You got to do the practice. The practice will heal it, but it doesn't heal it. In certain styles of yoga, which I'm not going to mention right now, they will actually say like, well, the practice heals you. But what we find with a lot of people is that their shoulder issues just get worse and worse. And what I try to do is teach people more about how muscle function works. And so if I'm having problems bringing my arm up here, instead of going, okay, I need to stretch these muscles here, maybe I need to work on engaging these muscles in a better way. And learning this idea of how do we start to improve muscle contractibility. The other thing about muscles is that they hold bones and joints in place. So what we want to do is start to improve the muscles contractibility, the muscles to be able to function in a way that they start to hold and stabilize the body. So we had, again, one person earlier say that they're suffering from knee pain. That's just such a classic example of the muscles surrounding the knee are not contracting properly. They're not stabilizing properly. I'm a hiker. I love hiking. I love walking. And for the longest time, right around when I was about 31, 32, I started noticing like debilitating knee pain at the end of my hikes. And I really kind of succumbed to that belief that I would not be a hiker anymore. I would never be able to hike again because I had such debilitating knee pain. And the interesting thing was that was true for a long time until I was around 45 and I started doing this work and I started stabilizing the muscles around my knee, and then all of a sudden these lights started going up. Oh my God, every time I activate my psoas before I go hiking, every time I activate my glutes and my TFL, guess what? No more knee pain. No more knee pain. I can go out now without my brace and hike and not have any more knee issues. So in terms, going back to your question about yoga teachers, I I feel very strongly that, they're just going to, my job isn't to change the narrative in the yoga world as much as it is to just keep educating people as much as I can on, how to move the body better, thinking about more intelligent practices so that we can start to strengthen the different muscular systems, the hip flexors, the hip extensors, like we saw with Amy, who could only lift her leg up 1 inch, but then afterwards got it up 5 inches. Now she's got range of motion and she's stable. So this is what I'm working with.
So when are you going to come up to Romney?
Do we have any other questions? How do I feel about yin yoga? Is this something that would be incorporated? Let's just say this, from an AYAMA perspective, that yin yoga is the complete opposite of everything that I'm teaching. Yin yoga, I've actually had students of mine who come to me. We get their bodies like working and well, and then they go back to a yin practice because they really, there's part of our mind that thinks, has become so ingrained in this idea that we need to stretch. And so, okay, I'm going to go back to my yin to stretch. And then they come back and they're in pain again, and they've hurt their back. Remember what we did earlier with Amy with the glutes? So much of yin is actually geared towards stretching the glutes and the myofascia around the glutes and the piriformis and all of these muscles. And as we're doing that, we're forcing other muscles to over-contract beyond their capacity. And so you're left with a really unstable body afterwards. And so if you don't believe me, do a yin practice and go for a run one day and tell me how you're doing. And then do my routine for runners and for a week, and then go for a run and then see how you're doing and tell me what the difference is. So that's what I have to say about yin. I don't really like to point fingers at different yoga systems per se. But that's definitely a system that would be on the opposite spectrum of everything that I'm trying to teach you. Any other questions you guys have that we'd like to ask?
Hi, it's Lyle. How are you?
Hi,
Um,
Lyle.
hi. I had you had mentioned that you advised against downward doing a child's pose. So is there an alternative pose that you would recommend if we need to pause during a rigorous hour and a half class?
That's a really good question, Lyle. So, if you're doing a rigorous class, and there's a lot to unpack there, but I'll just leave it at that. So, if you're doing a real rigorous class, where I would get my students to pause is in Tadasana. Tadasana is just such a great pose. The other kind of go-to pose that I do is actually just coming to all fours, Chakravakasana, just coming to all fours, sometimes called cat pose. But cat pose is such a great extension pose. And when I'm talking about extension, I'm not talking about back bends, just talking about, the spine elongating right now. So I would just have them come to fours. And my other favorite pose, two other favorite poses, is either Shavasana, of course, and Makrasana, crocodile pose. So when you come and lie down on your stomach and you bring your arms either like this and you bring your forehead to the forearm, or you bring your hands like this and just rest your forehead down. So those are my go-to poses because I often will actually pause and just get people just to, not to really take a break, but just to come back to the breath, come back to intention, and come back to just, more importantly, just feeling the energy of what's going on and what they're doing in their bodies.
Thank you. I had a wonderful time at the Blue Osa. You were not there, but it was a few weeks ago during the yoga and surfing retreat.
Yes.
Yeah, it was quite amazing.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much, Lyle. Really appreciate you joining in.
Looking forward to coming the next time.
Thank you.
Aaron, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? One of the teachers I follow on YouTube, he says that if you were under anesthesia, and you're laying on your back, if they took your leg, like it could bend all the way to your head because it's a mental, it's a neural, whatever the word is, that stops you. It's when your body says, this, or when your head says that, not your body. Do you believe that to be true?
I've been on some chat groups where that's actually come up, and to be quite honest with you, I've never been able to fact check it. I actually went on the internet and there was a lot of contradicting information, so I don't know if that's true or not. I do have a few friends that are doctors, and I just forgot to ask them what their thoughts are. It is a good question. Um, so I've heard people say both. Probably you would, in my estimation, you definitely would have more range of motion. But that feedback loop is in the autonomic nervous system. And so what we're looking to do from, just to bring it back to this conversation, from an applied yoga anatomy and muscle activation perspective, what we're looking to do is improve that feedback loop. That feedback loop of saying, okay, I can only bring my arm to here and I have pain or there's tightness, is because the body senses instability. So I think that when you're relaxed, you do have more range of motion. Absolutely. Your body is coming out of that fight or flight, right? You have less inflammation. But at the same time, I think you are going to be inhibited to some degree. So that's my 2 cents on
Another
that.
teacher I always thought it was a very good tip to find the Shavasana in every pose. And I do think about that a lot so that I'm not, it makes me think, am I tensing up everywhere else to, try to like constantly be aligning in a pose to allow relaxation and energy to flow even while maintaining, the form. So I would
Absolutely.
imagine that works more in your line of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, Sutra 247 in the Yoga Sutra says by the loosening of effort, you know? So we need to constantly remind ourselves that when we're practicing yoga asana, that there's this constant reminder, how much can I loosen my effort? There was a point in my life when everything became Like I was like a, you know, a New York yogi on the go, and everything was like this, right? So my mantra for like the better part of a year or 2 years after that was like, how can I loosen effort in this moment? And of course, the place that I practiced that a lot was in asana. But then as I practiced it in asana, it just flowed into other areas of my life. And what I found is that my life became more effortless. It became less of a struggle. And that's one of the promises of the Yoga Sutras. It's teaching us, if we do the practice, how can we how can we become more effortless in our lives instead of living in this constant day-to-day struggle? So that's a great practice. And there's a practice in the Shivananda Institute where they actually do shavasana after every single pose. And depending on the teacher, like sometimes it would be like a full-on shavasana, like not a 20-minute shavasana, but like you go in and you do some deep breathing. So absolutely. Um, yeah. Any other questions here? I
Just
see a
one
few.
quick question. Are we going to be able to look at this again?
Yes, we're going to send out the recap. It'll either be tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon sometime. So we will be sending out the recap shortly. Don't you worry.
If I can send it to my yoga teacher.
Aaron, is Harriet. Can I say one thing?
Absolutely, Harriet.
Okay, so I went to a week-long retreat with Yogi Aaron just a few months ago, about exactly. And before that, I'm thinking I better stretch. I'm going to Blue Osa. I better stretch. And I got there, and Aaron just flipped everything upside down. But I had been doing, you sent little videos saying, do this for your knees, do this, and I was trying all of them. And then I came, and after that week, I have never passively stretched once. Since then, only dynamic stretching. And I practice your muscle activation technique videos probably at least 3 times a week, and I feel really good. And I have rheumatoid arthritis in my shoulders. I have really bad knees and neck, and I do a lot of the neck work that Aaron supplies these videos, and it's made a big difference. I just want to say that.
Thank you, Harriet. You have to come. You have
It's
to.
an unpaid endorsement.
I didn't even know you were here, Harriet. I knew that you had signed up. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it was just amazing watching your body get strong over the week, Harriet. And that's what has motivated me more than anything to start putting this out in a bigger way, is because I'm just starting to see so many people getting stronger and becoming pain-free. And I really believe wholeheartedly that we can't live our best life if we're in pain. So if we're going to go out and live our best life, be the best version of ourselves, and manifest and live our life purpose, we need a body that functions. My purpose and where I find joy is on my hikes, hiking in the mountains in Costa Rica, in the Himalayas, in British Columbia. And when I'm in pain, I can't do that. So I take care of myself so I can go and, now that I'm in my 50th year, enjoy all of those things. Does anybody else have any questions? Nice to see you, Prakar. Awesome. Well, I'm going to then just close it up. It's coming up to an hour. I really appreciate all of you taking the time out of your schedule to just kind of take this information. I really want to encourage you guys to keep up with it. We'll be sending out some resource material. There's some resource material right in the PDF accompanying this video. And please check it out. Go slowly. One of the things that I want to stress in closing is to be patient with yourself. Some of us are coming in with some real chronic issues going on. When I first started this journey, I came in with a debilitated lower back. I just come out of the hospital from dealing with it. I have had other things going on. I've had kidney stones. All of this kind of stress creates more trauma. And what we want to do sometimes is take a few steps backwards, go slowly, take your time, start to feel some of the results, but also be aware of what you're doing to maybe kind of undo those things. One of the things that I can tell you that really hurts my body a lot is sitting. Anytime I start to sit, I can feel muscles shutting down. How do I know that? Because when I stand up, I need to put my hand on the desk to kind of push myself back up after sitting for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. So that tells me, okay, I need to go back and do more of the practices. And over time, the muscle response will get better, will get stronger, and you will feel better in your body and you'll become more resilient. But it does take time. So please honor your process, listen to your body, and enjoy it as well, because this is a very unique way that you can really start to get in touch with your body in a different way. So thank you very much again. And I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully one day soon in the next webinar we do. Namaste, everybody.